Hi fourth graders, it's Mrs. Nash. Today this little tutorial or this mini lesson is going to be on how we convert improper fractions into mixed numbers, or looking at how I do mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay, so let's start with an improper fraction first. Okay, now if you remember, an improper fraction is a fraction that is greater than 1. Okay, so what that means is when my numerator is larger than my denominator. Okay, so I take a look at the example here of 7, 6. Okay, 7 is larger than 6, and 7 is my numerator, so I know that this is an improper fraction. Okay, now let's talk about a mixed number. Okay, a mixed number, if you remember, is a number that contains both a whole number and also a fraction. Okay, so if I take a look at my example here, I have the example of 1 and 1/6. 1 is my whole number and 1/6 is my fraction. Okay, so this is a mixed number when I see this whole number and this fraction together. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is how to go from an improper fraction to a mixed number. Okay, and we're going to use the example of 5/3 right now. We did this 2 ways in class. One of the ways that I can do this is I can actually draw a model. Okay, so if I think about drawing a model, okay, my model for 5/3, or if I were drawing thirds, would look something like this. And I'm going to use a bar model or an area model because I feel like this is a little bit easier to visualize. Okay, if I split this into 1, 2, 3 pieces, because 3 is my denominator, so that's how many pieces I need to have in my model, and I shade these in, I notice that these 3 pieces here only equate to 3/3. Now this is a problem because I actually have 5/3. So I know that since this number is bigger than what this number is, I'm going to need to draw a second model. I have 3, 4, 5. So this actually is my model for 5/3. Now, if I want to write this as an improper fraction, what I'm going to write is I'm actually going to write 1, because this is one whole model that I have shaded. And then I have 1, 2 pieces of this next model shaded. So this would be 1 and 2/3. Okay, so this should help me be able to visualize what my whole number is going to be, how many whole models I have, and then how many pieces I have shaded in that last model. Okay. We also used dividing as a method. Okay, so if I look at dividing, okay, I can divide, and we're going to use the same fraction here. I'm going to use 5/3. Okay, I'm going to divide 5 divided by 3. Now, when I get ready to do this, I want to think about how many groups of 3 I can take out of 5. Okay, or I like to see how many times I can subtract my denominator, this 3, out of my numerator. Okay, now in this case, I can actually take one group out. So if I'm dividing 5 divided by 3, I actually get 1 with a remainder of 2 as an answer. And if you remember back to when we were doing division and interpreting the remainder, I can interpret this remainder as a fraction, using my remainder as the numerator and then the number that I divide by as my denominator. So actually, if I'm looking at my fraction, my whole number, or not my whole number, my mixed number is going to be 1 and 2/3. And if you notice, I got the same answer here when I divided as I got when I did my model as well. So I can do it either way. Okay? Now, let's take a look at how we can go from a mixed number to an improper fraction, okay? And I'm actually going to use the same fraction here. I'm going to use the fraction of 1 and 2/3 because I think that this will be easy for you to visualize, okay? So I'm going to start with the fraction 1 and 2/3, okay? And the first way I can do this is I can draw a model, okay? So we're going to draw a model. And if I draw my model, I'm going to draw one whole piece here. And then I'm going to draw a second piece because I have this fraction here. Now this whole piece, I know in my head that I need to divide this into 3 pieces because 3 is my denominator. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to shade those in for the 1. And then I'm going to look at 2/3. So my second bar I'm going to split. And I'm going to shade in 2 pieces. 1, 2. Now, if I look at these two models together, okay, I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces shaded with 3 as my denominator because I have one hole here, okay? The other way I could do this is I could do some multiplication, okay? So just like I divided to turn it into a mixed number, I can multiply, okay? If I'm multiplying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my whole number, I'm going to write this fraction here, okay? What I'm going to do is I multiply that whole number by the denominator, okay? So I would do 1 times 3 equals 3, okay? And then I add the numerator to that, okay? So I'm going to do 3, because this equals 3 pieces, plus 2. So I end up with a fraction of 5/3, okay? Today, the skill that you're going to be working on at IXL, okay, is going to be convert between improper fractions and mixed numbers, okay? You can use the shortcut of JFE, okay? I'm going to do one more, or I'm going to do a couple more practice problems with you here, okay? I actually have IXL pulled up on my screen. So the first problem it's giving me is 7, 6, and it's asking me to write that as a mixed number, okay? If I want to do a model, okay, I'm going to draw my model here. I would split this into 6 pieces. And if I shade 6 pieces, I notice that I have, this fraction is actually 6/6, but I have 7. So I know that I need to draw a second model. So I'm going to draw my second model here. I'm going to split this guy into 6 pieces as well. And I'm going to shade 1 because I have 6, 7. So if I look at this model, the fraction that's represented by this model is actually going to be 1 and 1/6. So I'm going to type that into IXL, and that answer was correct, okay? Ooh. The next one it gives me is 51/8, okay? I can write this, it's asking me to write it as a mixed number, okay? Now this one's a little bit more tricky because I don't know if I want to draw, and I don't know if I want to draw the models to show 51 pieces. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of my mental math skills or my understanding of fractions, okay? So if I do 50